I really want to know where the hell do you buy these things? Where do you buy the songs? Either like a MLS where you guys list, you look for, you buy, you sell. Like, how do you find those people that you're talking about, right?
Connor brings up the royalty exchange. We can give you a live example.
Right.
So, because that was the key catalyst for us discovering the space and how to create the portfolio before we got to know the people in the business. So there's a handful of auction sites, and Connor can walk you through it. But if you go to this auction site, so again, we're now doing direct deals with artists because obviously there's lots of them. In fact, I'd say there's easily several million people that have these interests. But this is a key website where in 2018 we bought a lot of stuff that was pretty unique. Eminem sound recordings, Dire Straits. These were bigger deals in syndications, meaning $2-3 million deals, and we bought part of those because, of course, we're trying to be diversified. But when you look at the numbers of these individual situations, I think royalty exchange over this time period's done, it says at the top of the site, 1,500 transactions, and yeah, there we go, $140 million. So it's not massive because these are such fragmented interests. On the other hand, most of these things wouldn't be interesting because they might be too new or too expensive. So you got to spend the time to figure it out. There's other sites like Anode and Songvest that are also providing deals. But that's the first answer to your question, because probably we have 15 things that we bought on this website between 50,000 and 500,000 US dollars.
Wow.
So you just have to go through they do a great job compared to dealing with an artist directly of getting the data, getting the statements, showing you where it's coming from, tying it into, the video, and you can evaluate it, accordingly, right?
So my question is this your primary pipeline? Is this where you get all your songs from? Or like anybody can go on here and actually start buying, right?
No, of course. In fact, Connor, I think the one slide that is the invest tab is a good one to just keep up, because it sort of reiterates the rationale for investing in this space. So it's because it's not just the music. When you broaden it out to the other categories, obviously music is more ubiquitous than watching your favorite movie every year around Christmas or whatever. But there's all kinds of interesting book royalties. There's even a Listerine royalty that they show, but it's kind of a 5% yield, which we don't think is interesting. We're trying to target double-digit yields on this. But to answer your question, yeah, we probably have about 15% of our portfolio has come from this website. As we pointed out, Andrew Loog Oldham was an example of when we got connected to, an iconic manager producer who knows everybody from his era. They're all, around 80 years of age. So, they're at the stage where it's not a bad idea for financial planning or legacy reasons to monetize. And but once you get plugged in, like every business on the planet, you're going to find the song brokers that are in Nashville, Toronto, Los Angeles, London, Mumbai, K-pop, it's everywhere. Entertainment lawyers, the accountants that do the business, just meeting artists. It's really just peeling back and thinking about in your own neighborhood or in your own circle of friends and relatives, do you know anybody who's in the entertainment business? So it's a full pipeline of deals that we've got from all over the place in all kinds of categories that we're being shown all the time. And it's really just evaluating those deals for incremental cash flow and diversification.
Got it. Now, here's your opportunity for name drop. Do you have any big names on your, on your team that like I would know or anyone would know?
Well, in order of deal size, I'm going to say Andrew Loog Oldham, obviously as the first manager of Rolling Stone, had his piece of the Rolling Stone songs from the 60s, as well as lots of other things. Then he introduces us to another peer, Shel Talmy, who remarkably went from California to England in the 60s and signed up to be producer for The Who, the Kinks, Manfred Mann, and 6 other bands. So we invested $1 million in that situation to buy a piece of the Who songs and the Kinks, and then from then, I guess our biggest high-profile deal was with Beyonce's father,
Oh,
who's Matthew Knowles, and we did a $6.5 million deal, which in which he took some shares. And the reason why it stood out for us is that it was very diversified. So it's almost 3,000 songs, almost 100 artists, and the payments we're getting are from 4 different payers. You know, the biggest one coming from a division of Universal Music called Ingrooves. But you know, that deal alone's about $50,000 US per month, right?
wow.
So, but it's like that. There could be something that's small and strategic, because if you could say that you have a piece of any big artist, they'll go, "What? You've got a piece of who?"
Who?
So,
You got a piece of who?
but
Do you, uh,
it also, you know, it does apply to the idea that, you know, if you think about all of these things as brands or global brands, you know, maybe particularly when you switch to TV and you say, you know, those 6 actors from Friends, they retired 20 years ago, and each of them are getting 20 million a year because it's $1 billion syndicated show. So think about it, 20 years, and they're still getting 20 million a year from something they retired from. Way more than the average musician, right? There's, you know, maybe a handful of musicians or artists that are getting streaming income of that magnitude. So, but again, you want to be diversified.
yeah. Now, do you have Bieber?
We honestly had a little piece of one of his songs, and we sold that piece. So the reality is that he's one where he did a big deal, an expensive deal, and maybe Connor alluded to that when he made the comment about that the wealthy artists want a premium. So I'm just going to use an example. It said all those big deals that have been announced in the newspapers over the last 5 years, you know, 100, 200, in his case, $200 million, those would be at least 20 times cash flow. So even though it's cool and it's high profile, you know, that's where we draw the line in the sand. So we don't think it's interesting from an investor point of view to pay 20 times cash flow for a 5% yield, especially now that, you know, rates have backed up and you can get that in your bank.
Okay, so you used to have Bieber. What about? Well, I'm assuming you have Beyonce, right?
That's part of the Matthew Knowles catalog of 100 artists.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, small. Again, this, if you think about any artist or any actor, you know, over the course of their career, they've worked with many people, done hundreds of songs or hundreds of movies, and so to have a piece of one thing, you know, is a pretty diversified investment horizon, right? So
Right. Right.
you know, at the end of the day, what I would say is what stands out for us is obviously if we could get something that's, you know, a really good price and a double-digit yield on something that everybody knows, then that's the ideal, because that's most likely to be on everybody's playlist, you know, for decades to come, right? So,
Right. So this brings me my next question. So why are they selling to you if they can themselves get cash flow for like 50 years, 100 years? Why are they selling?
well, I would say in the transition from the past. So yeah, historically they wouldn't have when they were younger, because most of the iconic artists were born in the 40s, you know, got popular in the 60s and 70s. So that is their passive income, and it does make sense. But this has historically been an illiquid market, and royalties were actually relatively small part of their income. So there were no transactions going on, or if there was, it was for a bad reason, like a divorce, or the tax man, you know, was looking for money. But nowadays it's a popular thing in the sense that you're saying, well, maybe when you're getting older, you want to get your affairs in order and you want to convert this unique asset into cash to pass on to your heirs. Maybe instead of, you know, if you're 80, you're not going to be around for the next 50 years to spend the money. So you may as well have it now to spend the money, you know, even if that's, you know, giving it for a cause or your children. So the reality is, that's created an opportunity for basically millions of artists that and therefore investors. Because I think the one thing that stands out for me, which we talked about at the beginning, is you want to be invested in something that you use every day, ideally, right? So you think about your big purchase for your home or your where you live, the car, groceries, gas in your car, but all of these hit songs and TV shows and so on, we've never had the opportunity to invest in it. There's still no public music royalty company. Over the last 4 years, there's been a couple of funds. Universal Music, which was private, went public. Warner Music went public. The Sony Music is part of a bigger company. Apple Music's part of a bigger, phone company. So it's just one of these strange things where the one thing we know and love, these thousands of hit songs, we've never had the opportunity to purchase. So that's what we're working on.
Just looking at, I guess, the different eras of music, before in the 50s all the way up until I would say the 80s, you had the singer-songwriter era where the artist was also writing the song. So if you look at this song Painted Black by the Rolling Stones, you can see that there's not that many owners. And how we got our piece of the Rolling Stones was through the producer, Andrew Loog Oldham.
Ah, very interesting.
So basically, he simply assigned his ownership, like we bought his condo, and we're now on Tidal Music Royalties Inc., receiving the quarterly wires directly into the music royalty bank account, which then we direct deposit back out to all the shareholders.
Okay, so you essentially have Rolling Stone songs, right? Okay.
And then showing a more modernized, more modern song, Empire State of Mind.
Oh.
You can see that there's way more owners, and how we got our piece was from Janae Sewell. So we don't want to deal with Jay-Z or Alicia Keys, the rich artist, because they command a premium.
Right.
But we can get a way better yield by dealing with the people that worked with them.
That's great, and I do want to explore more on that topic in the later in the later section of our coverage today. So that's great.
And just to take it one step further, this is one of our 13 accounts of where the royalties are collected.
Right.
And you could see here that Janae Sewell, this is 1/4 for the domestic U.S. royalty payment.
Mm-hmm.
And then the corresponding statement shows the entire breakdown of where all the pennies come from. So majority comes from streaming now. As you can see right here.
That's great. Yeah.
But it's wherever the song is played. So even live performance, when Jay-Z and Alicia Keys perform this in a concert, they have to pay all the rights holders for using that song.
Wow.
And just to take it another step further, you can see that TikTok pays, Apple pays, Amazon pays, Napster pays, surprisingly now.
Nice. I was gonna say, wow.
So all these DSPs, digital streaming providers, they didn't exist before.
Right.
And it's because of the technology companies coming in and fixing the way we consume music, as opposed to before, where it was a clunky business and honestly a discretionary purchase by going into HMV or Sam the Record Man to go and buy an album. Now it's a utility bill no one will ever give up, because for $120 a year, you can get everything that has been and will be created.
Which is currently about 100 million songs right now.
So to sum it up, from my point of view, from average day, Joe Smith of the street point of view, it sounds like people want to sell that because they want to get a lump sum cash in exchange for lifetime cash flow, because their time left isn't too much. I guess, is that correct? And I guess it would apply to a lot of other situations like divorce or whatever, like personal situations, which will motivate them to get lump sum cash instead of steady cash flow, right?
Correct. I would say, just to summarize, the reason why an artist is selling is for any one of the following reasons, which is death, divorce, taxes, a vice, or they just are coming to the end of their life and they want, to estate plan properly.
Right. And you know what? This sounds more and more like real estate. It's a very portable concept. Okay.
And,
that makes sense.
extremely asset light, because you don't have to repair the roof every 20 years.
Right.
You
Yeah.
don't have to find new tenants.
Yeah.
It's very passive.